Here we go. Anin Minukagije. Hello. Good morning. My name is Kristi Marie Hoffman. I am a member of the Costume Designers Guild. I'm a costume designer. I am a storyteller. We had a little bit of change in plans. Dr. Myrton was unable to join us for this discussion, but we know he is supporting us in our adventure today. Before we get started, I wanted to take a moment and ask our audience, friends, family, colleagues, to please take a moment and take any unconscious bias that you may be having right now, any kind of preconceived notions that you have of us, just grab it and toss it out the window. This is Native Voices. We are still here, and we have a lot to talk about. We're gonna get uncomfortable. I'm completely uncomfortable right now. I'm terrified. It's very difficult for the Native voice to come forward and speak, because when we do, oftentimes we get removed from the conversation. We get silenced. And there is unfortunately a history of systematically silencing and erasing Native people. And it needs to stop. We're gonna talk about, we're gonna have a conversation between skilled professionals, seasoned professionals in our industry, in the costume department and beyond. I just wanted to say that the reason why this is titled Native Voices, We Are Still Here, is because we don't get seen as everyday human beings. We get treated as characters of the past, characters of history, and we are still here. So without further ado, I would like to let the panelists speak for themselves. I want to go around the room and I want to have everyone introduce themselves in their own words. So I'm going to start going clockwise around the room, and please be patient. I'm nervous. I'm cool with that, but I ask for your patience, and I ask for you to allow me to fumble words and to be imperfect. Jean, let's get started. You tell me who you are and what you do in our profession.
My name is Braverock. I'm an actor, stuntman, producer, storyteller.
Hello.
Let's hold on, Jean, 1 second. Let's wait for someone to remove their audio.
Hold on.
I'm gonna let you start over when that's finished, Jean. Okay, sounds like we got quiet. Go ahead.
Jean Braverock. I'm an actor, stuntman, producer, storyteller. I am a husband, a father. I am a human being. I am, I'm very lucky to be very thankful to be in the industry for, I don't even know how many years. I've started when I was 18 in theater, moved on got into the stunt business, into the acting business. I'm very fortunate to have been part of many great productions and a lot of learning experience. Everything in my career has been stepping stones. And to get to where I'm at now, I'm best known for my role as Chief in DC Comics Wonder Woman. And I'd like to maybe get a little deeper into that, further into the conversation. But again, I just want to say that was one of my greatest feats in being able to develop that character the way I was able to, and that was thanks to great communication by the director, Patty Jenkins. Again, I'm an advocate for, as a storyteller, details are crucial. And so when it comes time to storytelling and those details are very necessary in our traditional world of indigenous stories. And in saying that, indigenous stories, me being in the movie business, it's part of storytelling, which is it's our oldest tradition, oral storytelling. we had people telling stories and others that would pantomime this story. So this goes a long way back to a very sacred thing, storytelling. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jean. Pilar. Good morning. Oh, you're on mute.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry about that. My name is Pilar Agoyo. I am from Owinge, Cochiti, and Santo Domingo Pueblos here in New Mexico. I am Tewa and Karis. I am also a contemporary Native American designer as well, but I am a cutter fitter currently slash seamstress, and I belong to the local 480 here in New Mexico, and I have been now for 15 years now. Glad to say I've had 37 projects that I've been so glad to be a part of. I'm a mother of 4, and so glad to be part of this discussion.
Thank you, Pilar. Wynema.
Good morning, everyone. Amera wahopa dotsinati al yakhana kota. Kiwa mesuta. My name is Wynema. I said good morning in our language. I'm from Santo Domingo Pueblo. I am in 15 years of being in the film industry. I work here in New Mexico in local 480. I work as an ager dyer, so my job is to basically paint and dye the clothes and make things look more realistic and authentic. The clothes look more realistic and authentic for the movies. I've worked on quite a few Westerns here in New Mexico. We get a lot of Westerns out here because of our location and our land. And so I'm very grateful for working in film and what it's taught me and what I've given to it and the reciprocal relationship that we have in film. Thank you.
Thank you, Wynema. And Clifton.
Save the best for last, huh? All right.
That's right.
My name is Clifton Chippewa. I'm a, by the way, bonjour, Anishinaabe. I'm a Saginaw Chippewa tribal member, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I've been in the industry since, I think, 2001. I am a hairstylist and a executive producer and producer. My sole goal for getting into the industry was to do what we're doing today, is to bring Native culture into the world's eyes, into the true Native depiction of us, and that's been my sole goal as a little boy. So I'm really grateful that Great Spirit, God, whatever you choose to call it, gave me the opportunity to do this, and I'm grateful for the panel that you guys are on with me today. And I'm almost starting to like you guys. Anyway, so grateful to be here. That's it.
Thank you, Clifton. Miigwech. That means thank you. Clifton and I have the same language that we speak. I'm not sure if I said this or not, but I'm also, I'm an Anishinaabe Kwe from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and I'm from the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians. Let's get started on some questions. So our first question that we want to talk about, it's two worlds. I want to go around the room and ask everyone, we live in two worlds. Can we please let the audience know what that means to us? And please give an example, if you can, in your profession of navigating the two worlds. So Jean, go ahead.
So an example of that is just, first of all, my introduction. I introduced myself in one world, whereas traditionally, in my world, I would say, Nistunitaniko Natuipita. Nomkutu Tatsakitapi. Sixiketsi Tsako, which would mean I'm saying my name in my traditional language. My traditional name is a Blackfoot person, where I come from, who my parents are, which clan I come from. So that's a difference in navigating those two worlds and in how I introduce myself. So that's just an example. I try and carry myself, in any conversation, as a what I forget. It just came to me right now, that navigation, and until I heard Wynema speak her language, it was like, yeah, that's the first and foremost how we introduce ourselves is you're not really talking about who you are, you're talking about where you come from and your parents, right? That's it. So.
Love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Let's go to Pilar.
Yeah, definitely two worlds, because growing up I grew up in Okeowinge, which wasn't called that always. It was called San Juan Pueblo, being that we were, I guess the Spanish language is very prominent in a lot of our everyday life, as well as, names of streets, names of places. They're all Spanish named. So I'm so grateful that we have changed and gone back to our original name. But I'm also from, I participated in the other tribes as well that I belong to. And so that definitely doesn't come into my workplace. It does because it is who I am. And I was brought up with a certain moral or reasonings and etc. And just to be a good person and be respectful of everybody. So I do that and I live that. But there are things that I can't, talk about or whatever. So I definitely have to separate the two, because I don't know. It sounds funny to say it out loud, but that's just the way it is. I'm lucky that my parents were very instrumental, not only being important in our tribes, but also outside of that, and knowing how to navigate being in state government as well as federal government, and exposing us to a lot of the differences that are out there. So I was exposed at a young age on how to just go with the flow and be part of everybody's if I can.
Thank you, Pilar. Wynema.
So for me, living in two worlds basically means, so my Pueblo world, for me, it's ingrained with culture, with community, with traditions. It's our way of life. It's everything we do. Like we come from a farming community here in New Mexico. My Pueblo has a lot of lands that we farm. And so a lot of our ceremonies and traditions are around the farming for our farmers. And so it's a big agriculture community, and we have respect for the land and the earth and Mother Nature. And then for film world, we have a lot of deadlines and stuff, and we have a lot of schedules that we have to keep. And those to me are polar opposites. When I'm working in film, I'm not thinking about Pueblo life. And when I'm engrossed in Pueblo life, I'm not thinking about film. They're just two different worlds for me to navigate constantly. And with our hours working in film, a lot of times they're 12-hour days, 10-hour day minimum. And so I find myself looking at my calendar a lot and trying to figure out what I need to do in terms of my Pueblo life and what I need to do in terms of film, and kind of trying to find a balance between both of them.
Thank you, Wynema. Clifton.
Yes. For me, it's a complete different experience. I'm considered an at-large tribal member, which means we don't live on the reservation. And so it's kind of like being a spy, you know, because it's like people don't really pick me as an Indian, you know, and they'll be talking all kinds of crap about me and, you know, about our culture and stuff. I said, by the way, my last name is Chippewa. They go, oh, sorry, man, you know, but they don't even say sorry. But anyway, so I'm like I'm in a complete different, my worlds are pretty much the same because my father had moved away from the reservation. He spent his life there and he moved away from the res because he didn't particularly want us on there because at that time, it was not a great place to be. You know, it was kind of weathered and worn down and, you know, and not a fun place to be. So he did it out of protection and he did it out of shame. He wanted to make sure that I didn't know that I was Native. So odd experience, but I'm very proud of my heritage, and I'm here to hopefully be more informed as to how to navigate the worlds when I get out into those worlds. Because you two, all of you, or most of you were on the reservations, and I wasn't. So it's a learning experience for me too, also to be here. But as far as on the set, we're in Michigan. I shot out in Montana on the Blackfoot Reservation, and didn't really experience any difficulties whatsoever. So, and I never have. So, so that's, you know, it's basically my experience. I don't have two worlds. My worlds are pretty much blended, and that's it.
Thank you, Clifton. Glad to see you back, Wynema. So for me, I'm just gonna, I just wanted to say, so two worlds, right? A foot in one world, a foot in the other at the same time. I read something that a Native artist whose name escapes me, so forgive me to this artist, but he said that it's two worlds is like wearing a moccasin on one foot and a sneaker on the other. And that really made sense to me. If we're gonna, I mean, we could really talk about two worlds this whole panel discussion, but we have a lot to cover. So I just thought that was kind of beautifully said. For me, and I want to give an example in my industry, in my profession, but I first want to say for my grandmother comes to mind. I was very close to her, and her first language was Ojibwe. She helped to raise my brother and I, and with my mom, and she could not speak. Her mom would not let her speak English at home, which I applaud in my heart. And when she, excuse me for the emotion, when she was out, she had to speak English. So that's an example of two worlds. Now, professionally speaking, I want to just say what it is that as a costume designer or an assistant costume designer, this is something that I have been doing. For example, working on like a production with Native subject matter. It is my job to take care of all the details. So if I'm assisting a costume designer, it's important that it's the professional behavior of just making sure everything's taken care of before it becomes something bigger than it needs to be. So when I'm putting together research boards, I just had this conversation with recently. When I put together research boards, there are a lot of words that I am removing from the boards that people might not be aware of. One of those words is the word squaw. So the reason why we don't say that word, and I'm sorry to say this, there is no other way for me to get the point across, is calling a Native woman a whore. And the reason why we don't say that, other than the obvious, is because Native women were raped, right? And that's not in the past. So in the research, when you see squaw above the photographs, take it out. Please take it out. I take it out. But because there hasn't allowed for time to discuss what I'm actually doing, I'm taking care of the problems before they exist. A costume designer will get the research boards without the words, without knowing that that's what I'm actually doing. So now I'm just having those conversations and saying, well, you know, if we get more people involved with putting boards together, we have to take out those words. So there's so many words, but that one I just wanted to address. And I'm sorry to go heavy. I said we were going to get uncomfortable. I'm getting uncomfortable. I'm getting vulnerable. And having said that, I wanted to talk about some more words. Let's talk about, this is another whole panel discussion we could probably have, right? But I'm gonna list some words off, and then I'm gonna go around the room and have you guys talk about one or two words, so that we can talk to our audience about what happens when we hear those words. And so let's say powwow, squaw, I addressed, savage, chief, this is my tribe, last man on the totem pole, kimosabi. I mean, the list can go on for days, right? So let's go to Jean, and let's have you discuss, pick one or two words that you want to talk about, and tell us what you think.
Okay, first of all, chief, because I played the chief on Wonder Woman. And you know what, so that came up at a time when I had no idea that was the role for Wonder Woman. And it was the first thing that was brought to my attention was, how do you feel about being called chief? My reply was, those are fighting words. You know what, as a little kid, I grew up fighting my way through school, being called chief. And same thing, it's you know, it's that stereotype that's been brought by through movies, and you know, we're not all chiefs. But anyways, it was, you know, I mentioned that, and it turned around into a very positive thing for representation and giving me that power to develop this character the way that I did. And that was through the respect and communication with Patty Jenkins. She understood that. Well, so after she said that, she said, I'm sorry, but I can't change the name Chief based on DC comic book characters. And I was like, DC Comics? And she was like, yeah, this is for the movie Wonder Woman. And she goes, and I understand. She goes, you know what? You never have to call yourself Chief. In fact, you can speak in your own language and introduce yourself and come up with your own name. And so giving me that power was amazing on my end, for my own people to hear my own language and introduce myself as a, you know what I thought, if Wonder Woman's dad was a Greek god, why can't there be a Blackfoot god in there? So I threw Napi in there, and that was a process in itself. That was something, again, I think was that I asked for and I was given. I mean, I went through Indigenous veterans in World War I to look for these names to pay respect, but out of protocol tradition, I could not use those names because I didn't have the right protocol. And you know what, in doing what I do as a storyteller, giving an offering and giving received something, Napi came to light. And you know what, in saying that, again, it was something very positive I don't think has happened in you know what, we were finally portrayed as a hero figure on mainstream movies. And again, speaking my language, that was something very positive coming out of that. And again, that was through communication, great communication. I think, you know what, it's again, coming where I come from and doing the things I've done to get to where I'm at. I've done a lot of things that I didn't want to do. And that first came up in hair and makeup, to be honest. Doing films and they're dirtying me up, where I'm going into a battle scene and they're making me look like I haven't braided my hair in 2 weeks or haven't washed my face in a month. As Indigenous people, we were known for our cleanliness. Our, you know, when the missionaries first came here, we were clean. We had clean teeth. We were very, you know, intricate, and everything that we did had a purpose, place, and meaning. And it wasn't following a style, but I mean, there was styles, you know what I mean? And so in saying that, going into hair and makeup, I would be like, you know what, just throwing it out there, a Blackfoot person wouldn't have their hair braided that way, or they wouldn't have worn that shirt, you know, in the same aspect as a Western in a different West, like they wouldn't have a certain saddle at a certain time period, which is, you know, that's details, right? And as a storyteller, I think that's crucial. You know, and again, in saying, talking about these two worlds, and I hate to go back to that question, but it is hard. It is a very serious question, and it is a great balance. You gotta walk that balance very carefully, because again, you could say the wrong thing and be considered, you know, I've had friends that have been blackballed in the industry for speaking up, right? So, and everything that I say, you know, it's out of respect and out of, you know, I think on both ends of where, you know what, I needed to go through a set etiquette class in order to get into the business, and I think it should go the same way. Like you said, the squaw word. That's another. I've been on set, and the AD was like, I'll call it S's, all the S's over here. And I'm like, oh my God, like I jumped on it right away. I'm like, dude, I took him around the corner and I was like, that's not the right thing to say. That's derogatory. It's, you know, it's very serious in our community. You don't go around saying that. And he had no idea. It was something that he had no clue. So again, that etiquette course would, you know, in any, when they're depicting any nationality, should be key, right?
100%, Jean. Thank you so much. Very well said. I appreciate hearing all of that. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go to Pilar in a second. I just wanted to say, you know, there is a difference between, you know, taking something. So in our profession, and Wynema can, you know, talk about this as an ager dyer, and like within this conversation, and she kind of has touched on that a bit, that you know, there's certain things we do for camera, right? To make it, we take something down for camera, like dyeing it, to make it less of a distraction. And I won't, you know, speak for her, but I'm just saying there's a difference between taking something down for camera and psychological damage, right? So it's really important to have Native voices in every department, hair, makeup. As Jean was just saying, you know, we've all, I mean, I know we've all experienced being on a production with Native subject matter, and as soon as I've just seen actors come out of the makeup trailer, and it becomes like a horror story. It's like, what are we doing here? We, you know, there's a difference between taking it down for camera and psychological damage. There's no need to make us dirty. Like, we don't, you know, there's a big difference. So I hope we're able to get into that a little bit more. Thank you, Jean, for bringing those points up. And I want to go to Pilar now and have you talk about a couple of words that, you know, you want to get into.
Of course, I've heard, you know, the powwow thing and the whole. I want to sage. That's a big thing, which I'm. I guess people feel that they need to cleanse a lot of spaces here, and for me personally, I've had to. Unfortunately, a friend of mine, she was doing that type of thing and thought it was okay to really step her boundaries with my workspace and did so and not knowing, and she didn't know this, but she assumed that all natives do this type of ritual to cleanse a space. And it was so intrusive because, first of all, I'm allergic to it. So I ended up having to leave my workspace for the rest of the evening because I couldn't work in my space because she didn't know. I know it came from a place of her trying, I don't know what she was trying to do, but there are instances where that takes place. But like I said, now we know, she knows, etc. And of course, I'm so glad when I get to work with the whole new crew. There are people who realize that they're coming to New Mexico where there is a large amount of Native people here from all different tribes. Just alone, we have 21 that are recognized within New Mexico. And a lot of them do, approach me and say, how do you want me to address you? Are you Native American? Are you American Indian? And I appreciate that because they're giving the consideration to make sure that they're not outstepping the boundaries that they're not sure of. And that's okay to ask. And as we continue to work, then they find out a little bit more details, like exactly what Pueblo do I come from? And I also get to hear their story too and where they come from. So it's a great learning environment. And that's what I love about this job so much, is that I'm able to hear their stories as well, so that I can have my stories heard. So it's reciprocal.
Thank you, Pilar. And yeah, of course, I just want to say thank you for also getting into the words Indian, Native American, Indigenous. There's so many words, American Indian, that a lot of those words were assigned to us, right? So, and we all have a different opinion on what we prefer. And it's, I love that you mentioned it's good to ask us as individuals what we, don't speak for us, please ask us, what do we prefer and how do we want to be, acknowledged, right? There's so many of us, there's so many different languages. There's over, there's like 574 federally recognized tribes, like numerous state-only recognized tribes, and tribes respectively that haven't been recognized yet. And that's in the United States alone. That's not even including Canada, our First Nations brothers and sisters. I don't have the stats there, but I'm just saying, that's a lot of people. So having said that, Clifton, I want to hear what you have to say. Talk to me about a couple of words. Sorry, you jumped. You were last, and Wynema took your spot, so now I moved you up a little.
Wow. I didn't have to do that. Wynema could have gone. Yeah, when being raised in the, again, I said, I don't like to tell my age too much, but being raised in the 50s, as a kid, and being raised in the city, basically, we're American Indians, and that's the only thing I knew, until all of a sudden we became Native Americans, and to me it sounded like a plant. And I was like, I didn't know what the heck that. I was like, what is that? So I was just like, I kind of stick with American Indian, got my little flag going here and stuff, but as far as the words go, I told you guys before, I hear it all the time. I'm in the public, I work with the public, and, like I say, hey, Chief, what's up? And I'm thinking, okay, it's like, then I told you guys the other day, hey, I had my, pretty much, I dressed the way I dressed, but, he goes, what are you supposed to be, like Kimosabi or something? And I'm thinking, like, for one, that's the white dude. And it's like, so I just like, and these are people I've known for years and years. So for me, the words, it's a lot of it's about education, teaching the public how we want it to be addressed. And as we all know, how many tribes do we have and how many opinions do we have? Quite a few. And it's just like, what offends who? That's what we got to figure out. For me, I would see that's the deal, how to figure that out and put all of us under one teepee, one, you know, and so I experienced that. Not, you know, like you said, it's today. It's not even yesteryear or whatever. I mean, they used to call me this, and they used to say stuff like that to me. It's now. I mean, I had a woman say to me about 3-4 months ago. She had gone to some kind of a fair or some crap, and then she brought this necklace. She goes, "I brought it to you. Isn't this what you people do? Trade beads and stuff? We got in New York for it." I'm going, "Yeah, okay." So I don't see her again anymore. And and I had another customer tell me. She says, "Didn't you people used to kill each other off too? I mean, just because because I told her, I said, 110 million natives died for this country, and then that's okay." And she goes, "Well, didn't you guys used to kill each other before?" I'm thinking like, whatever. So, so I'm pelted with it. Like I said, I'm a super spy. I hear all this crap, all this stuff all the time. So like, I told you guys before, the last time I think, and it comes in power. Well, how can we get the power? That's what we're looking for now, is the power to be, to be proud of our culture and to bring our culture in there. And to me, it's like the last time, and I've said this before, the last time that all of us got together, we all, Cheyenne, the Apache, the Comanche, all of us, and we became one superpower, is Custer's last stand. That's pretty much, all the war councils and everything else to get together like that, and they all joined together and became powerful. Can you imagine if we all 110 million of us showed up at the shore of when Christopher Columbus landed? It'd be a different world for us here. But so I'm grateful to be here. And as far as the words go, we got to figure out the list first. And again, education, and do it kindly, and don't have to throw it up in people's faces all the time. And just I just ask people, just please be respectful. That's it.
Clifton, beautiful. Thank you so much. Wynema, I want to ask you to talk about the word powwow as one of the words I don't think we got into enough, because I know you and I had a conversation about that, and then another word that maybe you want to discuss.
Okay. So the word powwow to me, I know I've talked to you about it, Christy, over the phone, one of our initial conversations. For me, powwow we don't have powwows in our pueblos, and it's not a word that represents Pueblo people, but I do know that I hear that word a lot when I'm walking through set, or when like things are happening in the morning, when they're like, wanting to talk about what's happening for the day. You hear that word a lot. And I know for me, it doesn't offend me personally, but it offends people I know that are of Native descent. And I think if it offends one person, we shouldn't be saying these kind of words. And so I've taken it upon myself whenever I hear, let's have a powwow to, talk about this morning's work. I'm like, oh, are we going to have a religious ceremony? Is that what we're going to have going on here? And so I kind of call people out when they say that word. And I just say, this isn't words that we should be saying. We can easily replace it with, let's have a morning meeting. Let's have a chat. Let's have our safety meeting, but people think it's okay to say those words. And it really isn't, because it's offensive. And that brings me up to another point that Clifton just brought up, is that he's talking about how he needs to let people know. He needs to educate people about these matters. And it's exhausting as a Native person to have to educate every single person on what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. It's tiring. It's tiring for speaking on behalf of Native people. I feel like a lot of times I'm put in a position where they say, how do Native people feel about this, Wynema? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me go consult our tribal communities and get back with you tomorrow. Is that my job to answer on behalf of Native America how we feel about these issues? And so it's just, for me, it's knowing who our allies are in this whole conversation and creating more allies, but it's also really exhausting to continue having this conversation and having this fight about our boundaries and what's healthy and what's not healthy and what's appropriate and not appropriate. And, you know, I just want to put it out there. If it offends one of us, you guys probably, or nobody should be saying it. That's all.
Wow. Wow. So well said. I mean, everyone, well said. I don't even think I could touch more on that, but I do want to, a couple of things. The words, right? They're embedded in the system. They're embedded in the system. I mean, this country has a history, and I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. It has a history of silencing and erasing Native people. It happens in words, in action, inaction, in our portrayals, which we are going to tackle next. The words, they're filled with injury. You know, for me, when I hear these words, the first time I hear it, it's like a verbal punch to the face. That's how I feel. And then it just doesn't happen one time. You know, you experience them throughout the day, and we've adapted, we've adjusted, we're strong, we're resilient. We have survived attempted genocide. We have survived forced assimilation. So many atrocities that have not stopped, like Clifton said, and they're not in the past. They're still currently happening. We're in 2021. Why? Why are we still participating? Not us, but why are people still participating in the silence and erasure of Native people? Yeah, so the verbal punch to the face, powwow, let's go have a powwow, let's powwow on that. That's like every time I hear that word. I mean, if I'm going to a powwow, I might be gone for 3 days and you might not be able to reach me. I have a cell phone, I do, but I'm taking a step back and I'm going into the world that I need to be a part of. And I need the outside world for me to go away for a few days. And there's many things that go with that I cannot touch upon because it's like Pilar was saying, there's certain things that we do not discuss outside of the community. And you know, once I've had enough punches to the face, I'm literally on verbal knockout. Right? So I'm teetering and I just, I can't experience anymore. It's exhausting. Like Wynema said. Let's get into the portrayals. So let me just take a moment and adjust. So film and television has a history of stereotypical portrayals. We're talking from the 1950s and before to the present. We're talking about red face, which I will define. I was asked to define that. We can talk about that. We're talking about red face. We're talking about other stereotypes, the white savior, broken English, you know, and so let's talk about red face. What is red face? This is going to be uncomfortable. We're here to get uncomfortable. Red face would be, as sensitively as I can say this, red face would be like, it's painting down, it's painting non-native or white actors to look like us. It's the equivalent to what, unfortunately, it's the equivalent to what blackface is to the Black community, only it's within our community. And it's horrific. It's disgusting. It needs to stop. I want to get really uncomfortable and ask everyone, how does red face make you feel personally? And have you experienced that working on a production, and maybe talk about how you were able to navigate through that. I'm going to start with Jean and we'll go around the room.
For me, I know it started, John Wayne movies when when the representation wasn't there. And now the representation is here. And to be honest, it is still happening. I mean, there is still non-Indigenous playing Indigenous folks. Again, when it comes to representation, that's a question that's been brought up to me a lot, based on my role with Wonder Woman. And you know what, it is key, but it at the same time, it's like, I can look at it from both sides, whereas, yes, there should be an Indigenous person playing this role. For me, it's about, again, representation and showing our own kids, that our own youth, our own people, that we can make it, we can do it, we can be successful. But at the same time, I also see it in a Cliff Curtis. He's played every race in the book, and he does a great job as an actor. That's where I want to go, right? Where it doesn't matter that I'm Native American. I'm just this cool character that happens to be Native American, right? And, I personally haven't had to do the red face, but I have seen it happen, and yeah, it's not 1950s anymore. And again, we have that representation. It still happens. I've been on productions where they ship in a bunch of boys that get painted up and get costumed up, so you can't tell that they're non-Indigenous. Or what had happened in Europe when I was part of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. There was only 5 of us, but they had 20 other performers that were non-Indigenous, right? And it is, and the fact is, they end up getting paid more than us. And there's so many different issues when you look at it. The show was great, but the politics was horrible. And my whole journey in doing this and moving on into the future, I want to, educate again softly, so that, the future storytellers don't have to go through the same things that I went through with defamation and the lack of knowledge of who we are, and it's very disrespectful. And honestly, it's unconscious. They do it they don't even know, right? So again, I think having maybe this is the beginning of a set etiquette course for these issues.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you for continuing to say set etiquette course. I love that. I love hearing that. That's definitely something that I think we all feel needs to happen, and not just in our community, but respectively in all of our marginalized communities that we stand in solidarity with 100%. Pilar, let's go to you, and let's tell me about red face, and tell me about or stereotypical images and navigating that in within the costume department and your position. Anything you want to share?
Sure. I have along with Wynema have worked on many westerns, because New Mexico is very vast and we have a lot of locations that are ideal. But I have had a lot of positive they've all been fascinating and wonderful and amazing, and I've made such amazing friendships because of them. And also, because there is a huge Native community here, they are able to pull in a lot of those Native roles that they need to fulfill. And because of it, actually, my children ended up being part of these movies and shows. It's great that they got to have a small part and not have to feel like I'm not being allowed to be included. And that is my hope, that me even being here opens up the door for other Natives to come want to be part of the film community. I want my children, if they decide that they want to be in the film because they've seen me do and have a lot of successes and build bridges with a lot of people, that they may want to be part of this world as well, And actually, I have to say, I'm very proud that my daughter has started her first production. So she, so it's like, it's there. She sees it happening. I mean, there was one instance where my son was in a movie and he did have to get his teeth yellowed, which you didn't realize. It didn't dawn on me until, some of the gentlemen were talking about things and I was like, oh my gosh. And he thought it was funny at the moment and we were laughing at him. And because he did think it was funny that his teeth were really yellow. But we took it just as a moment of he was just so happy to be there. And I didn't want to, make it a thing because it wasn't. He was enjoying himself and I wanted him to continue to do so. So when I'm working on a production or even a part of watching, I've even, like I said, just happy that New Mexico has been really opening up to the ideas that there is that demographic here. So let's utilize that. Let's bring them to the forefront.
Thank you, Pilar. Clifton, would you like to add to the conversation of your experience with red face, how you feel about it, stereotypical images? You're muted.
The show that I traveled to Montana with was the lead role was supposed to be a Blackfoot Indian played by a Latino, and that just that bothered me the whole time, But he's a pretty famous actor, so I didn't say anything to him. But but it was just weird, So it's like then we went into the whole couple scenes where of course we're on the reservation, and then they brought in all indigenous people, and we were doing doing these dances. And the scenes were all together, and with him in the middle of it all, and I'm thinking like it was just it really kind of irked me, but I was just grateful I had a job. But as far as like the John Wayne stuff, when I was a little kid, I don't want to, I always want to play cowboys and Indians, I never wanted to be the Indian because I always, you watch 50s movies, they always lost, so I just so I had all this negative connotation of what natives were, savages, beasts, all this other craziness. I thought, hell, I want to be that, even though, my father was very dark-skinned native, and so we got called different words than that. Being in Detroit, we got called the N-word and all kinds of stuff. I heard that quite a bit about my father, which was very hurtful. But but that's so I've been a scrapper since I was a little kid. Over my culture. And because that didn't last long, and of course you got to learn to fight. But so it's I hear it all the time. I see it all the time, and I can't stand it. And but I just try to be the best representation of our culture. I try not to react in anger or fear that I'm going to be discarded because I am who I am. I'm very proud of who I am, and I was very proud of my father, who was very, very, very gentle soul. He taught me. He never, as native fathers, they're very. My dad was very stoic, and he never spoke. I maybe had 3 conversations with the guy, but it's just like, but he spoke to me in silence. He talked to me through his eyes. I knew what he wanted when he wanted it without moving his lips, and kind of boring, but it taught me to be intuitive to people in today's world. People always tell me all the time, how do you know that? I can just feel you as you walk in the room. So it has nothing to do with being native, because we hear that all the time. You guys are so spiritual and all this other stuff. It's like, yeah, if I practice spirituality, if I don't, I'm not going to be spiritual, but it has nothing to do with me being Native. I was working in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, a very wealthy neighborhood, and primarily all Jewish clientele. And I had this Jewish woman go, "Yeah, go up and touch him. Go touch him. He's Indian." I'm like, that was kind of weird. But so I mean, I've had that my entire life, so I do not like it whatsoever. But again, we're here to educate and hopefully put a stop to it. That's it.
Thank you, Clifton. Thank you so much. Wynema, what do you have to say about red face and your experience?
So Pilar gave a really wonderful plug for New Mexico Film. She said, we don't often encounter that here in New Mexico because we have so many Native and Indigenous people. And so there has been times where I've encountered it, but we do have a lot of talent here. So come to New Mexico, maybe budget that into your film. Just kidding. But there was one time where I was confronted with red face, and it was during a time where we didn't have talent to fill the need for what they needed. And so we ended up having to use red face. And let me show you a photo of what I'm talking about. So on this show, like I said, it was for stuntmen. They didn't have any Native stuntmen to fulfill the quota of Native stuntmen. And so they needed to use non-natives to pretend to be natives. And so in my department, the makeup gave me a sample of what color they were going to use to make these people native. And so as you can see, it says Indian skin tone makeup. Do you see that? So I put a little bit of this Indian skin tone makeup on me, and that's what color in the background is my skin tone. And that is what color is the Indian skin tone that the show had made. And I took a photo. I put it on my forearm here. Took a photo, and I sent it to my family, who were not in the same state as me at that time. And I said, "Is this my skin color?" Because it was like a joke to me that they thought that one skin tone would make these people native. And I know I'm a dark Native, and I know I'm not, when people see me, they know that I'm Native American. But seeing that color next to my skin, it to me, I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing here trying to change people so drastically to fake it, And, for me, red face isn't just about the color. It's also about the costumes and putting them in something that they normally wouldn't wear. It's about putting them in fictitious stuff. And not that, Native actors wear the real deal when they're on camera either, but it's about them fitting us in a box. Imagine a Polaroid picture of what people think that Native people are. And in that Polaroid picture, they want us all to look this certain color. They want us all to dress this certain way. They want us all to live in teepees. They want us to live in hogans. They want us to be chiefs. They want us to be angry. And, we're not. We're not those people. And it's doing damage to our future generations. It's doing damage to our kids to think that, we're all this color, we're all this style of dress, we all live in teepees. It's not telling the truth of what it is, of what's happening. And it's not telling the truth in the stories of what's happening. And it is damaging for Native people. So I think that's all.
Well said, Wynema. I mean, really well said. Once these images get captured on screen, in theory, they live forever, right? So it just continues the cycle. I mean, children are watching that. It's happened. It has, we know that it's happened in animated films. Thank you for now putting the disclaimers out. However, let's stop with the red face. Let's stop with the stereotypical portrayals. Please, 2 words, stop it. We're in 2021, almost. It needs to stop. It just captured on screen continues to cycle. I do want to share a story. I promise that, we were getting uncomfortable and getting vulnerable, and I'm gonna do that because that's what we're here to do. So my experience with red face, I'm going to talk about working on a production as an assistant costume designer, and it had nothing to do with, we were not doing anything with Native subject matter, but suddenly production decided that they were going to make a mockery. This is my opinion. They were going to make a mockery of us and throw some non-Native actors in red face. Now, I had to sit through a meeting with a producer and design team, and I can't even tell you right now the words that I had to listen to, but I will say that when it was my turn to give input, I spoke and as calm, professional. I was sucking back the tears. I had my armor on, right? So I was my professional, calm self, but I said, this is going to offend a lot of people. I said some other things. I tried to steer them in a different direction, how we could do maybe what they were thinking of doing, but not what they were thinking of doing, but just giving a different way. But I was fired for that. And I just, that's what happens. And I know a lot of people have had that experience. When we speak up, we get silenced, we get removed from the discussion. If you don't like it, you can leave. That's something that you can find on YouTube from a well-known film that got some backlash. Some people were okay with it, some people weren't. I'm not okay with that kind of behavior. Getting fired because you don't want to participate in or be complicit in behavior that is violating your rights. Anyway, it's got quiet in the room. I could hear like a pin drop in here.
I think that, Christy, when you were sitting in that meeting, I know that feeling of uncomfort that you probably had where you're like, oh, this is okay, and then it's not okay. And I think that that's something that as Native people, we often have to face, is that uncomfort that surrounds us and surrounds the subject matter. And it's really uncomfortable to be in those positions where you're having to educate people and stand up. And, you got to be brave in some sorts to be able to confront those feelings and those worries of what's happening in front of you and the people with the power and with the paychecks. And it is scary. I agree.
100%. Thank you for jumping in there. I just had a moment of, Clifton, what do you want to add?
On a lighter note, when we were discussing skin color, I said, "Hey, I'm a light-skinned brother." And then Wynema handed up that makeup and said, "Here, I can help you out." It's with the Indian color. That's it. Nothing philosophical.
Well, the beauty of it is, I think, we're all Native here on this panel. And look at all of our different skin tones. I mean, we all identify as Native and we come from different tribes. I think if you take anything away from this panel, it's like we're not all the same color and we're not all the same people. We're all different and we're all beautiful in our own way. But it's just knowing that as Native people, we don't all fit in a box.
Well said. Thank you. And Pilar, do you want to add?
And I do want to add that, there are like we have said, there are 574 different tribes within the United States of America. And I do have to say, I am guilty of not knowing all of them. And I'm constantly meeting people who are introducing themselves to me, and we are talking about exactly where they come from and how they're getting recognized and what things we do have in common. So it's nice that at least I am constantly learning.
Thank you, Pilar. I wanted to, Jean, did you want to add anything else, or can we move on? We want to move on to our next question, or? Go ahead. Okay. So I wanted to, as the most underrepresented racial group of people in mainstream media, how can we increase inclusion for ourselves, and how can we talk to how do we get our allies to help in that call to action, right? So we're not just having a conversation, which we're happy to keep having conversations, but it's time for a call to action. So how can we do that? Jean, can you touch on that?
The call to action, again, straight back to that set etiquette course. But again, going to that etiquette course, that etiquette changes with every different tribe. I mean, me personally, I mean, as an Indigenous person, when I'm going to different places, there's a protocol in addressing issues or addressing people. And so again, it's different. It is, if you're, it's hard. It is, for me, representation is key. And I've had to be in rooms where it's like, okay, just do this. And I'm like, but they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have spoke that way. And again, even coming into language is huge. I don't want to go and portray a role and butcher the language. For me, that's my audience. I want to say it with conviction and say it the right way out of the respect of who I'm representing, whether that's my own people or another tribe. I mean, everything is, it is, again, my experiences have been playing those roles of the stereotypical Indian coming out of the bush with the tomahawk. And I've done a lot of things that didn't want to do to get to where I'm at. But now that I'm here, again, it's education. And I think that would start, if we're going to have a call to action, it should be that inclusion of that Indigenous voice in the creative side on every aspect, and I know that's tough to do in the business when you're, it goes back into the story. How deep are you getting into the story, right? Again, I've been on sets where I've brought up issues and it's like, if you don't want to do it, there's 100 other Indigenous people or Native Americans or Indians that'll do it. And the honest truth is that there is. And the thing is too, I've been on sets where I'm like, hey, that's not right. I'm the only one voicing an opinion, and the other 20 Indigenous people, it's their first time on set and they don't know any better. And so again, I'm glad to be in that place now where I can pick and choose and say, hey, I'm not going to do that. But I'd like that to be available to again, not to put it out there as an etiquette course. And so it's respect and communication all the way around.
Thank you, Jean. Pilar, do you want to add some?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just, I've been able to, I guess, people have recognized me and have approached me. So that really shows that there is a need for Native people that are very curious about, well, what do you do? So I'm proud to say that I have had several people actually now who work as a stitcher or as a costumer. And I'm so proud of them. Because it does take a certain type of dynamic person to work in this industry. I believe we have to be very adaptable, extremely adaptable on many levels. So it's nice when I get to see them and work alongside them. and us talk about Native things. It's nice when I have somebody in the room to do that with. But also, it's just trying to continue that education. It is, like I said, just continuing to take part in. I've been asked to be on different panels or go speak to high school students or, whatnot. So it is that outreach that is slowly taking place and happening. And I feel like we're still going to, get there. Just going to take a lot more work.
Thank you, Pilar. Clifton, did you want to add to that?
Sorry, what was the original question?
I was saying, so how can we get people to, as the most underrepresented racial group within mainstream media, how can we get others to include us more?
Yes, okay. Well, personally, for me, it's making our own movies, becoming our own Tyler, like we talked about before, who's going to be the Tyler Perry? I'll volunteer. But it's just, it's like, that's, again, I'm going back to my own personal goals is to, I'm in production with a $47 million budget movie. It's a Native film. And I saw it, and Christy had turned me on to this guy and as a department head here, and then it switched over to producer. But it's just like, when I saw the opportunity, and I told him maybe I could bring Native monies to it. So we took it to my tribe and we got before council 2 or 3 times, and it went on for about 8 months and they ended up turning it down. But again, that put the fire in me. The first time that happened, I was, as my wife will tell you, Diane, my loving wife, she'll tell you, I says, you always get knocked down, you'll get knocked down, but you get right back up. And to me, that's the warrior spirit that I do have, and that has, again, nothing to do with being Native. It's just that I am a warrior, and I'm here to fight for our inclusivity in the world. I want to use this as our vehicle to actually tell our story, the real story. And but again, it's perseverance. It's never giving up. It's always keeping going. As long as I got breath, there's hope, and I will keep continuing on with it until I get it. I know it's going to happen because I know in my heart that I am not. Like I said, when I got on this project, and I thought, like, you know what? I'm like a piranha on a spare rib. As soon as I smell money, I ask for it. And that's the thing too. It's like being a producer is all about that. It's perseverance, and it's just like staying on it. But again, I have a divine goal. It's not for me. It's for our culture. It's for my family. It's for, it's for other people. I try to live for other people. And that's how I conduct my life. So I know it's going to go down. And everybody in this room is going to be on it. That's it.
Thank you, Clifton. Wynema, would you like to add?
Sure. So include us more is what you're asking. How do they include us more in this conversation or in this topic? My most favorite films that I've worked on with the Native themes in them were with designers that included me, and as an artist that allowed me to help with the costumes and opened up those opportunities for me to help design those costumes and help design the symbols and help design colors. And, even though they have an idea in their mind, knowing that I was Native and giving me that how would you say, like giving me the opportunity to help them too, and for us to collaborate in those pieces. That has been very important to me. And also another part of it, and I don't think anybody's really talked about this, is having those cultural advisors or having consultants on the show to kind of steer the direction, to steer the look of what needs to be said and what needs to be told, and having people that are vetted in that process. It's, you know, for me, cultural advisors are a really kind of different job, because in my mind tells me somebody who knows Native topics doesn't generally work on the scene advising people what's culturally appropriate. So it's kind of a weird job, but at the same time, it is a necessary job to have somebody say, this is okay, this is not okay. These are acceptable, these are not acceptable. You treat us this way or you don't treat us this way. And so that's really important. But I think including us more is ultimately how we overcome these obstacles, and having Native designers such as yourself, Christy, that are our allies to help speak for Native people on film. And like I was joking with all of you guys, I said, we need a Tyler Perry for Native films. And I truly believe that. But the hard part of it is we have 574 tribes that we're asking one Native person to represent and, you know, kind of like open up the discussion. And that's a lot of pressure. I've never wanted to represent 574 of anything, you know, it's a lot of pressure for somebody. And so include us. And if it offends one person, we probably shouldn't be doing it. It's my opinion.
Well said. Love everything you just said. Wow. So many things I want to add. I'm going to start to wrap it up. I'm going to add some sentiments here. I had to make a couple of notes. So yeah, cultural advisor. I would say that in addition to what you added, Wynema, thank you so much. And thank you everyone. Having one cultural advisor, for me, it's not enough. You know, that cultural advisor needs an assistant. And also you need a representative in every department. You need that Native, you need that filter, and not just a token hire, right? Not just a diversity hire, but someone who lives and breathes being us every day, and also is a skilled professional, a seasoned skilled professional. So if you marry those two and you're working and you're collaborating with others, you get a better product. You just do, you get a better product. And I know producers, you want to make money, you get a beautiful product when you include us as part of the story. We're talking within the costume department. We're talking within the hair department. We're talking within the makeup department, writers, directors, producers, property, like everybody. We're here. It's hard for me to hear, well, we couldn't find any. Like everyone's saying, there's 574 federally recognized tribes, and then, numerous other tribes, and that's just in the United States alone. So it's inclusion. It's something that it needs to start happening. And I just, I think it's important that the Academy is putting an inclusion clause in their requirements. I would love if anyone's listening, I would love to, can we bump that date up a little bit? I think it's 2024. Can we bump it up just as a compromise to like 2022? I'm asking delicately, and please, no one put me on the naughty list. Don't put me on the, we don't want to, this girl's gonna say something. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's work together and make it better. And Clifton, yes, telling our own stories, being the Tyler Perry in our community. I love that. We love that. And Clifton and I are on board, and all of you. I promised to talk about a successful collaboration. So to our CDG president, Sal, I hope you're listening. I'm sure you are. This is for you and for all of us, right? It's for all of us. Everyone by now, if you're watching, if you're listening today, we've all seen the flyer that went out, right? Those colors, Clifton said to me, that screams Native. It screams Native. It's a visual impact. Those colors represent, it's hard to represent a very large group of us, but the panelists and I we did have a discussion, and those colors represent many things, our four directions, Mother Earth, and we could talk a whole nother panel on why those colors were chosen. We did have to work within certain parameters of a logo that was already, that the panel committee, that we sort of agreed upon what this is for all of our communities. So I just, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Forgive me for a second. That flyer is, my new friend from the panel committee, we worked closely together. I'll just say we worked really close together, Native voice and a non-Native voice. But respectfully, we worked together, and she was able to, she just implemented everything I asked her to in every way, and wasn't afraid to do that. I had to nudge a little bit because some of the colors, my ask was, it sounded like it would be a train wreck, to be honest. Didn't know if it was going to work out, but it ended up turning out in what many of us thought, the panel committee and those of you here, the word across the board was beautiful, right? That's what I heard across the board. It was beautiful. It's the same thing what we do as costume designers. We are dressing our characters, and we there's no words or disclaimer or anything that we can put. It's visual impact. It's the first thing arguably that you see on screen. It's that it's storytelling through the art of costume design, what the character is wearing. And I just would like to say that what seems to be different to some people might actually turn out, it's not less than. Different isn't less than, it can actually be beautiful. Anyone like to, I just also want to thank the people who came before us in this conversation. We're not the only ones to do it. We're not going to be the last ones to do it. Anyone we have 4 minutes, literally, and then we have to wrap it up. Anyone like to say anything? Sorry, I was long-winded. Wynema.
One thing that we didn't really talk about is mentorship programs. Some of the shows that I've worked on, we've had actors that have brought Native kids from my community in. And they got to see what it was like to be on a film set and what it meant to work, but they didn't know that one of their own was working in the film community. And when I introduced myself to them, they were in shock. And so those kids that I see them now, they're a little bit older. They call me superstar at home, but it really opened up the dialogue for them to be able to be there as well and to create opportunity for them to say, oh, I could be doing that and I could be there in that seat. And so I think that's important for the future too, so that we get more Native American artists in the film world. That's all.
Clifton?
Yeah, in our discussions with the SAG-AFTRAthrough Chippewas about funding the movie, we said that we were going to do a whole internship program with all the kids out there too. And even we told them, even if it does, the financing thing doesn't work out with you, we're still gonna go shoot some scenes up there and do a little internship program for these kids to teach them the industry and give them some hope and give them some dreams and give them something to look forward to and just have fun. Because at some point our making a movie is fun. It's like when you get the job and then the wrap party.
Thank you so much, Clifton. I want to take a moment and I want to say thank you to the Costume Designers Guild for giving us this opportunity. Thank you, panelists, for showing up and getting vulnerable with me. I do need to say, if there are any more CDG members, native CDG members that would like to come forward in this conversation, please contact the office. We would like to hear from you, and you can have my email address, my contact, whatever. And if there are any other Native professionals in our industry that want to come forward in these conversations, just as we all have today, contact the office. Let us know. Our numbers, I'm not permitted to discuss, but they are not even at status quo in the Costume Designers Guild. So we have incredibly low numbers of Native members, and we'd like to work to increase that. And we need more visibility, and we need help from other people. We need help in outreach, and I'm here. I'm happy to be contacted, and I think all of these people here are happy to help in that adventure, in that thing that we just need to do, for lack of words right now. I want to say thank you, everyone, for just coming from the heart, we're coming from a good place. We're trying to do something really good, and not just, and respectively, for our other marginalized communities. We stand with you. We're in solidarity. We are, and I feel like, as someone close to me said, what comes from the heart goes back into the heart. And I'd just like to end maybe on that note. I hope that's okay with everyone. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.